What's up, family? Welcome to Creel Talk, a place where two people living out loud share insights, failures, small wins, and everything in between. Listen, no fancy studio, no professional sound bites, no AI perfected scripts. It's just us growing. Whether you're going through breakthroughs or breakdowns at the same time as we are, pop in those earbuds and let's grow together. Believe. Two important things determine where we end up in life. The first is the environment we're in, and the second are the people we surround ourselves with. And for me, this is a law that became so true when I examined my life up to the point in which we're living. Because when I was growing up, I had a best friend, and he and we came from the exact same environment. Both of us, we were born and raised in what we would call the hood, a pretty impoverished neighborhood in Cleveland, Ohio. Both of us raised by single moms. Both of us had a older sister, a few years older than us, a single mom that had two kids, older sister, young son, and we both came out of that environment. You know, both of us, even in our family environment and dynamic, we both were surrounded with people that were drug addicts. We're surrounded by people that were alcoholics, right? We're surrounded by a lot of gang violence. We just came from what I would say is a pretty rough upbringing. If you think about that, that was the environment we came from and the people we were surrounded with. But here's what happened. I think the first difference for us when I think about those two things, when I think about the environment we grew up in and I think about the people we were surrounded by, I think about the fact that everything changed when I turned 18 and I left that environment and got away from those people. Whereas you see, he, even to this day, unfortunately, he still lives there. You see, what I'm explaining to you right now is called the law of association. The law of association, it's a law that we're actually all familiar with. Here's what it says: we are all a product of our environment and the average of the people we spend the most time with. And to really bring it to life, I mean, think about this. You're familiar with this law, whether or not you understand it from such a formal context. And here's an example I think to help you really understand it. Imagine you had four middle-aged divorced women, and there was a fifth woman that started hanging out with these women every single day. And this fifth woman, she was married. Now, after a while of hanging out with these four divorced women, what do you guys think is most likely to happen? Exactly. You're thinking about it. I bet most of you probably said, here's what most people say: oh, yeah, that fifth woman, she's getting divorced. There's some pretty over the top optimistic people that might say and think about it and say, okay, maybe that fifth woman, she's gonna remind those women's of the merits of marriage and lead them all to getting remarried. There might be like a 1% of you that thought that. But here's what nobody ever says. Here's what nobody ever says, because all I simply ask is what's most likely to happen. Nobody ever says they all stay the same. Because you know why? We all understand the law of association. It's a law. It's not like laws like man's laws, like 65 miles an hour on a freeway, right? We can all break that. We probably all do. It's actually a law, like a universal law. It's like God's laws. It cannot be broken. Like gravity on earth. You do know that if you jump off of something really high without any type of help, you're going to go down. You'll never go up. That's how gravity works. And the cool thing about those inflexible laws of the universe is you don't have to believe in them for them to work for you. If you don't believe me, just go free jump off of something really high, and it could be the last time you don't believe in an inflexible law. That's just, it is what it is. And that's what the law of association is. The law of association, once again, it states that we are all a product of our environment and the average of the people we spend the most time with. Understanding that law, I think the first thing to really dive into and start to dissect here a little bit is the environment piece. You see, me and my friend, we both came from the same environment. What is an environment? An environment is a surrounding and or condition that someone lives in. And coming from the same environment, you would imagine that we would have created the same outcomes, but we didn't. We've had drastically different outcomes in our lives. Well, the first reason is maybe we both did come from the same, let's say, negative condition growing up in that hood environment. But you know what I had that I don't know if he exactly had in his home? I had a mother. I still have her. She's amazing. She ain't going nowhere. And my mother, she created in that negative condition an overwhelmingly positive surrounding. A home, a space. It wasn't much, it wasn't a lot, but it was ours. And in that space, she showered my sister and I with love and passion and affection. And she reminded us that we mattered and that we were going somewhere and that our life would mean something. In a negative situation, she created a positive environment. And I think that's where the first shift happens. Because you see, a lot of people try to fight this concept of environment. They think they're above their environment, but you're not. The law states it. You're not above your environment. You have to understand that. An environment will shift an individual before an individual will ever shift it. So the environments that we subject ourselves to matter. It determines where we end up. If you want to create a certain result, you have to be in a certain environment. I mean, my uncle used to always say, I love this little saying he had. He used to always say, if you hang around the barbershop long enough, you're bound to get a haircut. Why? Because we are all products of our environment. So when you think about being a product of your environment, here's what you then should know is that you bloom where you're planted. You bloom where you're planted. So we have to be very intentional. You see, what happened is when I left the hood, I made a decree, by the way. I left and said I was never going back. I remember there'd be times when I was dating my wife and I would take her back in that environment just to drive through, maybe go get something to eat real quick from one of the hood chicken spots, which are the best chicken spots in the world, bar none. And we'd roll through, but then we'd bounce out like real quick. Be like, yeah, this nice. It's cool. All right, we out of here. Cause I didn't even want to entertain the idea that I'm back or I'm coming back or I'll be back or I'll stay back. There could be long periods of time that I don't even roam around that general area because I don't want to be the product of that environment. I changed my environment so that I can change myself, my product. I didn't want to bloom there, so I stopped planting myself there. You see, I wanted an environment that was conducive for the growth that I wanted. I want to live in a fantastic life. I want to have an impact on other people. I want to be high energy and positive and uplifting and motivating. Therefore, I need to be an environment that is known to produce that result. So when I plant myself there, I could bloom to that product. That's the environment I wanted to be in. For me, it started with going to college. It started with getting around other people that wanted to better their lives and wanted to better their future. But there's average in everything. I come out of college and it's like, yeah, you get in the job world, but then I got around uplifting, motivating people. I developed coaches and mentors, relationships that pushed me and caused me to get around and gave me opportunities to be around just above average people, people that were living life with purpose and on purpose. You got to understand a great flower cannot grow at all, let alone release its potential in a negative, harsh environment. We grow to the standards of our environment. It's kind of thinking about some species of sharks. I've heard there's some sharks out there that they literally grow to the size of their environment. You put them in a tank, they'll be tiny as a fish. You put them in an ocean, they'll be great whites. They grow to the size of their environment, and we're no different. Our growth is stagnated or determined by the environment we plant ourselves in. Environment matters. That's the first half of the law of association. Well, the second half of the law of association talks about the actual circle of people we surround ourselves with. You see, it says that we are the average of the people we spend the most time with. And when I think about my best friend growing up, I think about the fact that when I left, I also left the people from that environment we came from. I no longer hung out with those people. I didn't do it intentionally. I know you hear it sometimes and it's like a catchphrase, right? You cut them off, or you cut some people out. I didn't do that on purpose. It's not my personality. But what I figured out was that friendships were grounded in purpose, and when I changed the purpose, I changed my friendships. You see, my purpose was no longer to hang out on the block. It was no longer to play video games until 6 a.m. It was no longer to just use money I didn't have to buy the fanciest clothes or have the nicest shoes. My purpose became to become somebody, to do something. Truth be told, my purpose became to validate the sacrifices my mother made to create a great environment for my sister and I to be the products of before we left and grew into bigger and better things. And that required me to get around better people. We all understand this law as well. I mean, think about this. You'll never see a billionaire hanging with a beggar, even if the beggar is the billionaire's blood brother. It won't happen, because successful people, they understand it matters who we get around. We become who we hang with. And when I started intentionally determining my circle, what I determined is, first and foremost, I wanted to be around people that celebrated my weird and my dreams and my goals. They appreciated my work ethic, my personality, my sarcasm, right? I always heard, go where you appreciate it, not where you're tolerated. Those are the types of people I wanted to surround myself with. And I did, intentionally. You see, from 0 to 18, we don't always have control of our environment or the people, but from 18 on in America, we have control. And what I decided was I was going to get around people that were uplifting, they were motivating, they were going somewhere. Because I knew if I was going to be the average of anybody, I want to be the average of the most outstanding people in the world. And thank goodness I found those people and I ingrained myself in an environment to get around them regularly. That's the understanding. The product of that, I mean, my wife and I are doing okay. Life is pretty good. We've accomplished things. I'll tell you, I'm probably first person in my family to get married before having kids. Never done drugs or alcohol, even though I literally was birthed out of an environment where that ran rampant. No background, none of that stuff. I'm not saying that to brag. Just that's the result that was created, not because I'm awesome, but because I understood this law. I understood that an environment will always shift an individual before an individual will ever shift it. So I wasn't trying to change the hood. I wanted to change me. And when I become successful enough, I'll go back and make a difference in the environment I came from to make it a better place so that more great people can be planted there and bloom there. But I wasn't trying to do it from the inside out because I understand the law of association. I'm not trying to change people. I'm looking for great people that we can be great together. And I wish my best friend understood that law as much as I did, because he created the opposite result. But that's okay, because now here's what has happened. You understand the law of association. And now you are in control of two of the most important things that determine our success. You are in control of your environment, and you are in control of your circle of people you choose to spend time with. And so, what I will ask of you, friend, is make sure you choose your association wisely and take advantage of now understanding the law of association. Believe.